Alrighty. It's time to go into the DM question of the week, which is, how do you make a name?
Yes, how do you make a name? A name for either your character or an NPC.
Your kid.
Your kid.
Your dog.
Your dog.
Pet. Your favorite chair.
Maybe you want to change your name.
Your favorite car.
Yeah.
Your favorite mic.
Sure. Okay.
It's okay, Bertha.
I mean, the Mike's name would be Mike. Anyway.
Hey, Mikey Mike.
Okay. What do you have to say? I basically just got a bunch of things you can consider when doing it.
So I'm just kind of saying, like, this sounds stupid, but, like, you got to give the person the last name, you know?
You got to give him a last name?
I got to give him a good last name, you know?
Well, that's part of the name.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the name. But what I found in history is, like, if the last name has the first letter as the first name, it kind of fits in really well. So, for example, Hiccup Haddock, 2 H's, fits well, you know? Let's see, there's a whole bunch.
Well, I mean, it does.
Bjorn the Brave, or
Igor
the Ironfoot.
That's one strategy to make it kind of ring the name.
Yeah, ring the name. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Oh, wait, it's flipped. Hold on a second.
Okay, well, I think one of the first things you need to, or you can do if you want inspiration in your name, is to talk to your DM. And so every world's different, you know. You may have homebrew races. They may have changed the races a little bit. And so if you want inspiration, ask your DM and say, "Hey, I'm making this type of character. Kind of what are the names like in that culture?" And that can definitely give you inspiration. And this can help because there's a difference between, like, Lord of the Rings names that are really high fantasy versus Game of Thrones names, which are fantasy, but a little more realistic names. So you have names that are just straight up like Robert, right? Robert Baratheon, or Eddard, which is just Edward,
or Jeff.
Right?
Jeffrey.
There's Joffrey. Yeah.
Joff. That's the short term for Joffrey. Joff, come here.
Yeah. Oh. And that's very different than Legolas, right? Like it just depends. And so if you want to fit the theme, do that. That's the starting place. Okay, we can take turns. You got one?
I have one. Kind of show like physical qualities of the person. So let's say that half their face got burnt off. You should say Stephen the Scorched, something like that. Maybe one of their feet is he wears an iron boot, so Ironfoot. You know, something Ironfoot.
Yeah.
Or like maybe he's like, or like a personality, Igvar the Ruthless. Or something
okay,
like
yeah,
that.
I can expand on that.
Yeah.
So this is the big one, and I think this is a powerful one, and it's to make your names ideally fit your character, and the way you do this is you just kind of think about what's kind of the first impression you get from that name, and does that match the impression you want your character to give off? Because in Dungeons and Dragons, we're operating in the mind. You may have a mini, but when you're thinking about what's going on, you're not watching a movie. So the name is really a huge factor into what this character feels like. And so what you should probably do, and this is also how you roleplay it, right? That's the biggest chunk is how you roleplay. Do you have like a little squeaky voice, or do you have a big booming voice? That's probably the big one. But your name is another big factor. And so if you have a strong character, give them a strong name. If you have a very like delicate character, give them a delicate name. You know, if they're a royal, give them a royal sounding name. That type of thing. And it's that simple. So like a strong sounding name would be like your name was Takar, right? That sounds very tough because it's got those consonants like Takar. Like it's not Daenerys or something that's like exotic. It's Takar. It's down to earth, strong. You were like a huntsman. That's like
Takar the Beastmaster.
Yeah, like it fit.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, you can do the opposite. You can give your character a name that completely does not fit. And this would be if you're going for a more humorous build.
Squawk the Feeble. Have like a were-rat.
Well, you may be like a little princess, and then you name her, you know, Arnold. Yeah, sounds
Just
Arnolda, or who knows?
Arnolda, can you please come in, sweetie? Just like a ripped little girl, just like with veins just popping, just like got the chin, just. Yes, mother.
Yeah. Or what's like a really like intimidating? Yeah, just give like the little girl a super intimidating name, and that will just be funny, right? It does not fit her character at all. It's funny.
Or like if you give like a orc, come here, Sven. Just like
yeah, exactly.
Orc. Yeah, just do the opposite.
If you want to be funny, do the opposite. Most of the time, you're not going to want to be funny. You don't want to joke around too much with your character because it's like.
Because then you would be a joke.
Yeah, you're going to be a joke. If you want to have a serious campaign.
Everyone would laugh at you.
But yeah, your names should fit your character because the impression your name makes is a big factor in how the other players see your character.
Yeah. Also, like, don't name your character, like, Jeff. That has happened
You
to
can.
me before. You can.
Well, don't do it. Don't do it because you're lazy. Do it with intention.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I had one that made a samurai. I based it off of someone from a game, Jin Sakai, so I call it Jun Sakai.
Okay.
That just, like, Sakai has a ring to it, so I was like, oh, that sounds nice, you know?
Yeah, that actually reminds me of, so my character, Jakai, that was my name.
Which character is this?
It was my monk. And so it was Jay-Kai, Jakai. And the inspiration for that name was my own name, Jake. But I just wanted to put kind of like an Eastern feel on it, so I put Jakai. You know what I mean? It's like this, you know what I'm saying? Jay is J, which is like, my name's Jake, if you didn't know, which is J-A, and then Kai is K-A-Y, or K-A-I, which is similar to K-E. So instead of Jake, it's Jakai. Anyway, you get the point. I got inspiration from there. But you made a name that sounds like identical to that. Interesting.
Jun Sakai. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a little halfling monk.
Japanese names are hard, though.
Halfling monk is a classic.
Halfling monk? Halfling rogues are the classic, I feel like, for a halfling. We'll get into that later.
I don't know about that. I kind of disagree. Anyway, okay. So another thing that you can get inspiration of for your name and kind of look at is real life names. And so there's a big difference between the names Ernest Hemingway, right? So you have like Ernest Hemingway. It's very sophisticated. 2 H's. No. Ernest starts with an E.
Oh, God dang it. I'm such an idiot.
And Ernest is it's a word. It's an adjective. You can be earnest. Like you can be. I believe earnest means to be like you want to do something.
Hope. That's a cool.
Yeah, hope is another name. So Ernest Hemingway. It's sophisticated. It's got like a double syllable type thing. Ernest Hemingway, which is 3 syllables, and that's very different than the name like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. You know what I mean?
That is a great name. You have a giant named Dwayne, and his pet rock is named Johnson. Sorry,
yeah. And so like it's interesting how their names are very fitting for who they are. Dwayne The Rock Johnson is just a strong name. Dwayne, right? This is a big, powerful name, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson is huge. And Ernest Hemingway was a writer, right? So he's sophisticated. You know, he's good with language, and his name feels that way. Now, maybe that's just because we associate those traits with their names. But I think if we really look at it, it is true. Like, their names just really fit. So those are both pretty, like, American English styles. But you can look at other languages to get a different feel with the structure of different names. So, like, Jean-Luc. That was my name in French.
That was my name, too.
When I was in high school. And Jean-Luc is just a first name, but it's 2 names. And so you could totally do that with your name. I did that with Jakai. His first name was Jakai. And so Jean-Luc is just a different structure. And every culture will probably have different structures. And so look into real-life cultures for inspiration.
Probably my favorite name that I made was Holden Cross. You know, that just has like a really good ring to it.
Didn't you take that name from like straight up a video game?
Sort of.
What was the name of the person in the video game?
Holden Cross.
Okay, well then you didn't come up with
it. Was John Luke.
Yeah, come up.
Or Jakai.
John.
That's from you.
Jakai was my own creation. I didn't get that from anywhere. The inspiration was my own name.
Maybe I could have done Holding Cross.
Holding Cross. Anyway, yeah, you can also just straight up copy a name, but that is a little lame.
Well, if you say like Logan, it's kind of
No, but it's different between saying like, what is Wolverine's last name? It's Howlett. His name was James Howlett, and then he changed his name to Logan. But I think
Logan's such a sick name.
it is a sick name. Anyway, moving on. So you want it to fit your character. You can get inspiration from your DM. If you ask about their world, you can get inspiration from real names. You can definitely get inspiration from other characters, like Ethan does, just straight up copying them. But I mean, the reason I had Jean-Luc as my name in French was Jean-Luc Picard. Like, just being a nerd. Like, obviously, I'm gonna pick Jean-Luc. Anyway, I'm not gonna pick anything else. I almost picked Xavier because Professor X, but I went with Jean-Luc.
I think that's what I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Xavier. Yeah.
That's a good one, too.
Pretty good.
Yeah. They're both Sir Patrick Stewart, so that's funny.
That's actually.
I didn't. Anyway, another thing you want to do with your name is connect the name to your backstory. Now, you don't have to do any of this, obviously, but it's a very cool thing to do, especially if you like creating characters. And so connect it to your backstory. Use your name as a way just to make your character more complex. Add some history to that name. Is this the name that's been passed down for generations in your family? And if it's not, do you have a different name? Something like that. Maybe your name, like one of our fellow players, his middle name, he's a Goliath, and he gets this inspiration from the Goliath lore. His middle name is like Drake Slayer, and so he that's part of his backstory. He has that name because of something that happened in his past. What he did? Who knows?
Killed a Drake.
But
probably one of the coolest ones I heard. It was from what was it from? Assassin? I don't know. It was Wolf Kissed. It's like he got bit by a wolf. So like.
Oh, that's really cool.
Like that. Yeah.
I love that kind of wording where it's like kissed, but it's not a kiss. It's a bite.
Yeah.
I love that kind of wording. It's a very artful.
Yeah, no, that was really cool.
It's really good.
Or like Phoenix Touched or something like that. You know, like something grazed by Phoenix, grazed of the Phoenix. Or like you have like a name of like a kingdom of like, you know, like name of a creature. Maybe.
Well, we're just sticking with characters here. Say that for another episode.
Well, no, like I'm talking about a character named of a place or creature.
My name is New York City.
No, not like that. It's like I am Dwayne or I am Bjorn. Bjorn.
Well, aren't you supposed to do a name? You mean my name is Iron Golem?
What? No.
Is that what you're saying?
No, it's kind of like you have a name of, who knows where, of Wyverndale. You know, I am Daubeny of Wyverndale. That's what
yes.
Yeah,
that's
I explained that horribly. Or like I am.
Well, typically you have your name and then you say of wherever you're from.
Or like I am Daubeny the Scaled. Like he killed dragons.
You can have titles. What you're saying?
Titles.
Yeah.
Titles would be. That's
Very
a good
cool.
part for names. Put titles.
Yes, and so where can you get fantasy names? Well, you can definitely just look up fantasy generators. Obviously,
is a book,
there's millions of things.
There's a D&D book that.
There's not a D&D book. There's tons of D&D books.
But there is a D&D book that puts an entire chapter for names.
You mean like an official D&D book? Oh, which one?
Xanathar's Guide.
Okay, yeah. And you also can find them online. D&D Beyond obviously has. There's names everywhere. But if you want to make your own unique name, this is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to make your own unique name, take your character. So maybe they are like a Aarakocra, and so you could look up the word flight, and maybe look up like synonyms. So I don't know, soar, like to soar through the sky, and then you could be Soren, and that could be your name, and so it kind of fits. Or
that does fit.
You know what I mean? And so stuff like that, you can change it. So synonyms are a good place to get it. Just kind of looking up words, switching stuff around, take a name, mess it up. That's what George R. R. Martin did with most of the Northerners, kind of the men that have been there a while. So Stark is just a straight up word, right? Stark is an adjective. Something is Stark. And that would suggest a family line that is very old, and one that was kind of the early men or women, right? Because those were like the initial words of the time. They were
the spark of mankind.
Yeah, and if you have a more elaborate name, and this is in Game of Thrones, it's going to be a newer name or more exotic or from a different place that has a different language. And that's how you can do stuff like that. Yeah. And I guess since we're talking about Game of Thrones, or I brought it up, I have to bring up Hodor. What a way to come up with a name.
Hodor.
Maybe you make your name dependent on your purpose.
Punch him.
So maybe instead of being Drake Slayer because of your past, you're Drake Slayer because of something you want to do in the future or you plan to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's pretty good.
Yes. In medieval history, fun fact, they didn't know how to spell their names. And so that's why you get all these variations. That's why George R. R. Martin took the name Edward and made it Eddard, because that's actually, it would be a very common thing to do, to just have a variation of the same name. Because if you write it down and you don't know how to spell it, it's going to look like a new name. So that's why medieval names, there's so many, and there doesn't seem to be any like format to some of them. It's because people just don't know how to write their own names, so you get all these crazy names. But yeah, that's all I got for how to name your characters, whether that be NPCs or your straight up characters.
That's pretty good.